and welcome back to the Neuropreneur Rising podcast. I have had about 6 coffees already. I mean, this is, maybe not 6, but this is like my 4th. So this is going to be a fun episode. I have a lot to talk about. So we are going to be going into really what I feel is one of the most needed and important topics for neurodivergent entrepreneurs and online business owners, especially with the business world in the online space being so confusing, and there's a lot going on and there's a lot to say. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things. But for, yes, strategy, it's so important, but also for the personality behind your work. It's a really important topic, and it's one that people struggle with an awful lot. So we're going to be talking about how to become a beacon to your ideal client online when you're marketing. But we're also going to be talking about the flip side of that, which is being okay and being comfortable with some people in that kind of sphere or your audience not liking you, and stop being afraid essentially of what the rest of the world thinks of you in business. So it's not easy. It's easier said than done. I think we've all got a lot of conditioning as neurodivergent adults of, many, many years of being told to just blend in and be normal, quote unquote. And, that has caused quite a lot of the fear of being seen that many, many of us have. So we're going to be going into that and kind of how to unravel that conditioning of blending in. I touch on topics like niching and kind of being bold and being brave with who you are a lot in marketing, because I see that how difficult that is every day in my work, not just with, new students, but also just kind of people in my overall community. And I know it's hard. I'm not here to kind of say it's easy. It's necessary, but it's not easy. So, there is a fear that a lot of people have as well, around kind of like niching and being specific of, I don't want to pigeonhole myself, and I don't want to, be too restrictive with my niche and restrictive with who I'm talking to. So I'm going to be going into that as well. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of tough love about the fact that it is 2026. And unfortunately, unfortunately for short-term you, but fortunately for long-term you can't afford to not be inherently you in business. Sorry. And that's where the real work kind of comes in. Being you and being comfortable with saying, here's what I do, here's why my work is for you, but also here's why my work is not for you, is literally at the core of whether your business and your marketing will be successful or whether it will be a flop. In this episode, I'm really going to be giving you the why. In marketing and in business, I think so many of us neurodivergents kind of really struggle to implement things where we don't know the why. And it's just kind of information to us. So I'm really going to be going into the why of, why that will be the determining factor of whether your business and marketing will be a flop or be a huge success. Just to help you kind of understand that a little bit more, so you can say, oh, all right, I get it now, rather than, oh, this is just a scary thing that I need to do. So I'm going to be really touching on, as I said, the strategic part of why you need to repel to attract, but also that personal kind of side of it. So I'm going to send you away with something strategic, but I'm also going to touch on the very real fears that we can't just kind of out strategy our way out of, if that makes sense. So yeah, you'll go away with something to try this week, but I also just want to send you away with knowing that you need to have a ton of empathy with this part of yourself that is naturally going to be scared of speaking out and being bold in your marketing, and not necessarily speaking out, but just speaking your truth. So let's go. It's going to be a banging episode. So the common trap of being palatable and casting a wide net, we'll start there. Most people go into their first business thinking, okay, and again, this totally depends on what kind of business you have. We're looking at, you guys here and me, which is online businesses, more specifically coaches and service providers. So if that's not you, if you're like a product-based business that has to appeal to the masses, this is probably not for you, because I don't ever work with, product-based businesses. Anyway, but yeah, just as an example, this is for our semi-niche and niche online business owners. So the people tend to say, okay, the more volume I can get, the better, because that's just common sense. That's how our brains are kind of wired. People tend to look at volume versus who is going to be the best fit. And honestly, the virality mindset of the last few years really hasn't helped, because people have very much gotten used to volume over actual sales coming in, vanity metrics over actual sales coming in. So that really hasn't helped this mindset of like, you do need to, whether you want to call it like focus or niche or think of another word for it, but you do need to be specific, and you need to own your craft. It's mastery of what you do, essentially, is what it is. We've gotten used to this kind of norm of, okay, I just need more volume. And casting a wide net is pretty much what I tried to do when I first started out, because I just remember I could not wrap my head around, what do you mean I have to appeal to less people? That seems so backwards for me. And I'm a very I'm a very hippy dippy and very like free spirit and everything, but I'm also a very logical thinker. And I was just sort of like, I don't get it. Like, how is appealing to less people going to be better for business? That seems really weird. And I really, really struggled to get my head around that. But the truth is, in marketing and in business in general, in these kind of fields, appealing to, and honestly, most businesses, to be honest, now that I'm kind of riffing on it, you need to start with the smallest viable market and start there. That doesn't mean that you can't expand out and you can't branch out in the future. But when you're first starting out, especially, starting with the smallest viable market essentially means that you can, as I said, master your craft, your messaging, your offers, and all of that builds the sustainable foundations that are actually going to help you grow, which is your reputation. It allows people who are a fit to actually see, oh, this is exactly what I need, when they compare to maybe other options they've been looking at that are kind of like, oh, yeah, meh. We don't want to be meh. Like, we want to be so specific that our market, our people are like, oh, this is it. Like, where have you been all my life? And we really, especially, as I said, in 2026, and I don't say this to scare you and be like, oh my God, it's 2026, every fucking market is oversaturated. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying there is a lot of people in the coaching service provider online business world. And this is an opportunity for us to be specific and really to say, this is what I do. This is the unique thing that I do. This is my unique take on this thing that I do. And this is why it's for XYZ person. So it's a really beautiful thing, because I used to think niching and being specific was really, really restrictive. And again, I kind of struggled to wrap my head around it, but I really started to change my perspective on niching when I realized, oh, this is like my business is my baby. It's like something I'm really proud of. It's something that I've infused with like my unique methodology and the way that I help people in business. And it became like almost like my magic formula. It sounds really weird, but it becomes a really special thing when you can actually shift your mindset and shift your perspective away from, oh, being specific or niching is too restrictive. And actually it's like, no, these are things that you get to like infuse with your unique essence, and it becomes yours. Like, no one can actually replicate that. So anyway, that's just, my thoughts on it. And a lot of the time, within that mentality of wanting to be for everyone or thinking you need to be for everyone, we also think that we need to be kind of lukewarm or just like not ruffle any feathers or even replicate others in your industry. Oh my gosh, I used to do this. I started off, if you don't know, way before I was, well, not really way before, I was always kind of doing business coaching on the side, maybe not the first kind of year, but when I first started out, I was in the kind of personal development spiritual industry. And if you know me, you know my personality. I am who I am, like online as I am in life. I'm very like bold and expressive, and I mean, I swear a lot. I'm a bit of a geezer. So like, that's just me. When I first started my, first business, I really tried hard to replicate other people in my industry. I thought I had to be this like fluffy, like airy fairy girly. I don't even know what was happening, honestly. I think I was just so scared of not being accepted in business. And obviously I had my own stuff to kind of unpack around that. But honestly, I have like this carousel of videos that I show to my students. And I actually shared it a couple times on Instagram to show like, look, if you have the fear of showing up on camera, being yourself, so did I. Like, I didn't start off this like really comfortable, like confident in who I am person. I really, really did feel uncomfortable with that when I first started. The videos are hilarious, guys. I love it so much. But when I watch them, I'm like, oh my God, this poor girl. Like, she was so terrified. There's one where I'm like trying to say like, when I first got into the law of attraction and manifestation, and then my cat like starts making a noise in the background. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No, I'm just like, I'm borderline having a breakdown. It's honestly, it's so funny. You can probably scroll back on my Instagram and find it. But yeah, anyway, my long-winded way of saying, people need you. People don't need everyone else in your industry. And this is the thing. Your ideal client is probably bored of something that they've had or heard or experienced before in the industry, and you have the opportunity to say, hey, this is me through and through. And again, you don't have to manufacture this to be something wildly different. You just have to be you, and you have to really, really think into, okay, what's my unique stance on my work? And again, it doesn't have to be this like wildly unique thing. It really, really doesn't. It just has to be genuine to you and your expertise. So marketing requires specificity. That's just the bottom line. And it needs you to be okay with being disliked, like good marketing. Now, it's all well and good kind of getting past this first part of like, okay, I just need to be more specific. But that's not the part that most people get tangled up in. And sometimes, when I'm working with students in NFSA, it can sometimes be a little bit of a process to put everything together and be, really kind of comfortable with knowing who your ideal client is. But that's not the part that a lot of people kind of get really tangled up in and really like uncomfortable with. It's the other side to being so specific that you attract your ideal clients, which is repelling the people who aren't for you and you aren't for them. Now, everything, if you can kind of look at it, like everything in nature has two sides, light and dark, summer and winter, hot and cold, like literally everything. But a lot of the time we are only super comfortable with one side and we kind of don't want to see the other side. Whether it's like to try and protect ourselves from, getting ridiculed or, harmed in any way, like what our brain thinks of, we don't want to see that sometimes. And that's the thing is like everything in business, especially this kind of side of marketing, requires both, and it requires you to be comfortable with both. But honestly, before we can get comfortable with actually doing it, like this is what I always say is doing the actions is important. But if you aren't aware of the things that are kind of going on that make you feel uncomfortable with like taking the actions and the real reason behind like why you're not taking those actions, if you don't do that, it's just going to keep coming down and you're going to just start from square one. So, think about your childhood for a second. I know that's probably like, for a lot of people, it's like, I'd rather not, to be honest, Paul. So I get you, believe me. But, think about the kind of like conditioning that you got as a neurodivergent person, to blend in or be normal or be palatable. So many of us were like the opposite of that. And we were kind of like, I'm not, this is not happening. That was me. I very much rebelled. But there's also, a lot of neurodivergent people who in childhood really conformed to that and flew beneath the radar for that exact reason. So I don't know which one you kind of are or were, but we all kind of went through the same thing, but we responded in very different ways. But think about your childhood. Maybe it wasn't, but for most of us, I think it was full of kind of like blend in, be normal, keep your head down, all of that stuff. And now it probably feels a bit strange because in business, you're being asked to do the total opposite. And your nervous system is basically like shitting a brick and is like, no, that's not safe. I don't want to do that. And your brain's kind of like, no, we're not going to do that. It makes a lot of sense. So we need to be really, really empathetic with that part of ourselves, you know, that doesn't feel safe doing this and kind of speaking our truth, or, you know, being disliked by people on the internet. Because the internet is like, let's all be very honest, the internet is not the most peace-loving place, like full of hippies and flowers and stuff. You know, it can hold a lot of really jarring opinions. And, you know, that's whether that's off social media or on. Obviously on social media is where that kind of stuff really does make the most appearance. But it's you know, we do need to have empathy for that part of ourselves that feels uncomfortable. Doesn't mean that you have to accept that and be like, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable now, so I'll forever be uncomfortable with it. There's nothing I can do, I'm doomed. But, you know, having empathy to move forward is really, you know, is what helps. And reminding yourself that, you know, you're not going to fall apart if someone doesn't like your stuff, your work, your opinions, your podcast, whatever it is. I'll be honest with you as well. It does get easier when you get to that point of you have like a thriving community and you have regular clients coming in. Because I always say, like, evidence creates confidence. And I know it got a lot easier for me when I started getting those consistent clients in and students. And I was like, oh, well, I've got students coming in. I've got this amazing community. I'm really, really in the zone with what I do. I just genuinely like could not give a fuck what anyone else thinks at this point. So again, evidence creates confidence, but there's a level of work that needs to be done around that before. So I have a little something I'm going to share with you. Well, I'm going to have a sip of coffee first. Oh, that's good. Right. So I'm going to I'm going to share with you something from my emails. Okay. Top secret classified. Basically, I've spent all morning this morning digging these out because I've mentioned this to students in the past and I've never been able to find the email. And I'm like, okay, I actually need to like sit down and dig this out. So if you're an NFSA student and you are listening, this is the email that I keep talking about on a semi-regular basis when we go into this topic. This kind of stuff happens to me less now than it used to. I don't really know why. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm just like out of tune to it. But this really is, a topic that I got feedback on from someone who listened to my podcast versus someone who actually became an NFSA student, and it's on the same topic of my foul language, basically. So obviously I swear a lot on these podcasts. My bad. So yeah, this was an email from someone who listened to my podcast and obviously felt compelled enough and offended enough to email me. So we'll call her, we won't use her real name because I'm not about that. We'll call her Karen. I think that that's a fitting name. So Karen emailed me. This was on the 21st of June, 2025. Okay. Hello, Polly. I'm sorry, I cannot/will not be following you anymore. I started listening to your recording intently until you started saying cuss words. To me, you're being disrespectful of the listener, and frankly, now I don't trust what you have to say. Think what you want about this old woman. I don't care, and apparently you don't care either. I am unsubscribing. Karen. Like, normally I have a rule of thumb. So Karen obviously was a little bit, she felt very compelled to email in just because I swore. There's obviously a fundamental mismatch in values here. I have my own opinions on this that, you know, I'm not going to share. But there was obviously a fundamental mismatch in values. I'm obviously not for Karen, and Karen certainly is not for me. So I would not, obviously I'm going to share the rest of the conversation with you because it's just funny. I wouldn't normally reply to something that is, I normally have like a rule of thumb. So if I get, obviously I'm not on social media anymore. If I get a comment that is kind of just expressing feelings or is opening a debate or someone actually just wants to share their side of things, I'm always open to that. When it gets disrespectful, rude, someone starts like violently insulting me, I just delete the comment and I'm not available for that. That's mine. It's not school, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff I experienced in school. So I'm not doing that. But anyway, I did reply to this just because it was kind of amusing. And I did kind of just want to say, like, it's okay that we have different values. So I replied saying, hi, Karen. Thanks for sharing. We all have our different tastes, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other business coaches out there who don't cuss. Smiley face. this bit was a bit snide. I said, my following of over 27,500 people online, which I think is more now, all love my funny and sweary tone, and it's been my brand voice for years. Keep being you and I'll keep being me. Happy Saturday. And then 3 little rainbow emojis. Why did I respond to this on a Saturday? I would never, that's so funny because it was literally like less than a year ago and I would never respond to anything on a Saturday now. That's so funny. Anyway, so she then emailed back saying, thanks for letting me share. It must be a young people thing. Manners seem to be a thing of the past. And I thought, well, that's a bit rude. So I just replied saying, must be. Night, night, Karen. Have a banging weekend. Smiley face. Anyway, that's just my pettiness towards the end of that. But yeah, as I said, fundamental mismatch of values. I'm not going to get offended by that. I couldn't care less what Karen thinks of me. I still couldn't care less now, a year on, nearly. So yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm not offended. I actually think it would be a really, really strange world if we all had the same opinions. It would just be so weird and boring and just like not a world I would actually want to live in. So I will now share with you a completely different side to this. And this is from a feedback form that one of my NFSA students filled out. And I just want to highlight this question. So the question was, what specifically drew you to working with Polly and NFSA originally? And she put in that question box, the ADHD focus, and you sweared a lot, so I trusted you. The fuck? Like, it doesn't make any sense. How can one person have this opinion and well, that's because how people work. And that's great. So we are obviously a great match because she's extended in NFSA. Like, I think this is her 3rd time and she's been an absolutely fantastic student. And she's actually not like that. She doesn't swear ever. I don't think I've actually ever heard her drop a swear word, but again, it's just a better match in values. And obviously the rest of them, obviously that's not the sole reason why she trusted me. Before she came into NFSA the first time, she binged all of the podcast episodes, or most of them, got a lot of value from it. And obviously we built a relationship from there. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about is this light and dark polarization kind of element to this of people are always going to hate you. Well, okay, maybe not hate you, hate what you have to say or dislike you, or maybe you give them the ick. But people are also going to love you and get so much value from what you say and do, and who you are and what you embody. So you have to have both. Otherwise, you're lukewarm and you're down the middle, and then you cast a wide net, but you bring in no one or very minimal people. So trust was literally broken with one person to a point where she unsubscribed and felt compelled to actually email me, which I do find funny. I'm trying not to be petty, but it's quite hilarious. And enough trust was built with another person to the point where, she signed up for NFSA and she's extended like 3 times. So this is my point. It's that extreme opposite. And I didn't try. I just was me on those podcast episodes. And if someone doesn't like that, then that is absolutely great because now they know what they like and what they don't like. And Karen obviously doesn't like me. Sorry, Karen, you're probably not listening. Okay, so a little strategy to get you started. This is just a really, really simple thing just to get you kind of comfortable with this, like whether you want to call it polarization or just who you appeal to and who you don't, just to get you comfortable with both realities, is you're going to get a piece of paper or on your computer, whatever you prefer, create 2 sides to the paper, 2 like columns or halves. And on one side, write down parts of your offer, your business, your expertise, your personality that would absolutely appeal to your ideal client and why. And then on the other side, do the same, but write down parts of your offer, your business, your expertise, your personality that essentially wouldn't appeal at all to someone who is the opposite of your ideal client avatar and someone who wouldn't be a fit for your work and why. And just start getting comfortable with writing down and speaking about and kind of visualizing that you are not going to be for everyone, and that's okay and that's good. And in turn, you're going to be able to be even more laser focused with your mission, your work, your business, and who you are and how you show up in that. So that is pretty much it from me. And there it is. I hope this has kind of made you a little bit more comfortable about kind of holding both realities and, that you have to be not for everyone in order to really, really be a beacon for your ideal client. And in turn, build that long line of people who literally cannot wait to work with you, because when you are yourself and when you have your unique take on your work, people get excited. People want to be a part of that because they can feel how inherently you it is and how uniquely you it is. And that's a really special thing to create. And again, like I said, I want to make it really clear that I'm not saying that you have to have like $1 million idea, or that you have to, dye your hair 5 colors and stand out. Like, you don't have to do anything that isn't you. Your only job here is to be you, and is to lead by example and show how much you care and how good you are at your work. Like, that's your job, because it wouldn't be enough to, like, I hate the saying like, just be authentic in your marketing and that'll do it. It's like, no. Because this isn't the all about you show. And also, I'm sorry, I know that, sometimes in the online world, it's it seems like it's all about you, but it's not. It's the way that you hold the space for your ideal clients and how you show them this is the space for you, So within that, there's the you being authentic part. I hope that makes sense. Because you're more than just a service or a coaching offer. People, yes, obviously invest in a high quality offer or service, but you are also the thing that people invest in. People invest in the quality of the person and how much they trust you. So again, that requires somewhat a bit of polarization. But yeah, not manufactured polarization. I've started to kind of loathe the word polarization, because in the social media space, it's kind of been used of like, say something outrageous and get people to have arguments in the comment section. Fuck that. We don't want to, I don't even want to speak about that stuff, because it's just not, it's not marketing, it's rage baiting. But that's kind of the way that the word polarization has been used over the years. And I don't know. It's been taken out of context. So yeah. And as I said, this is such an important topic that we need more neurodivergent people kind of learning about and learning to get comfortable with this. So if you really enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, leave a review on this podcast so the little robots behind the scenes can kind of push it out to even more neurodivergent business owners, so we can keep building this weird little spicy empire at Neuropreneur Rising, and, get more neurodivergent entrepreneurs comfortable with this stuff. And, I want you to nail your marketing. I want you to have an easy time in business. And yeah, it just works a little different for us because we've got our own way that our brain works, and the way we absorb things, and the way that we feel about a lot. We feel a lot as neurodivergents, and that comes into the strategy. It comes into how we show up and how we are in business. So I want people to hear this take. And also feel free to leave a comment or DM me on Instagram, although I'm not posting on there really ever anymore. I'm still active on my DMs. So comment or send me a message to let me know kind of what part of this episode hit home for you. I'd love to hear that, and I'd love to chat, because we are all so different. I always like to hear your stories. And as always, if you are ready for support, I'd love to be your coach, your marketing coach inside my 4-month program, the Neuro-Friendly Sales Accelerator, or NFSA, where you will learn everything that you need to know about building a overflowing client roster without relying on social media, and whilst finding ways of marketing that feel easeful and most joyful for you, because I really believe that marketing should be kind of going hand in hand with our unique strengths. And that's really what I teach inside NFSA, rather than kind of trying to fit yourself into this box of, that's what so-and-so told me to do in marketing. And I freaking hate it. And I hate showing up in that format every day. And I'd rather do something else. So inside NFSA, we cover everything from clarifying your niche, your ideal client, your offers, to creating a visibility strategy from long-form content, SEO, collaboration, human first connection, and more. Bringing those people and those quality leads into your email community, and learning how to nurture your community full of people who literally are so primed and ready and can't wait to hear from you every week, and approaching your email with a lot less. I think people approach email with like a stick up their butt a little bit, and thinking it needs to be really, really rigid and professional, and that's why a lot of people kind of haven't got email communities that they use regularly. So I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about that and about writing amazing emails that do their job and really connect with people and move people into, being clients. So also we go into the sales piece of all of this. It is the sales accelerator after all, learning how to sell with soul and ethics and without compromising your values through email and making that your central hub for consistent sales, again, through human first connection and strategy. And then putting everything into neuro-friendly rhythms that you can actually task manage everything in, and around your brain, your capacity, your energy, and your life, rather than feeling you've just got so much on your plate that you feel like it's just a chore rather than something that you feel in flow with. So that neuro-friendly piece is something that we'll work on together, and we'll plan it around your life and your energy, and how you work and how you move. Because again, we do things differently as neurodivergents, and we are very, very different brains. But it's not just what you learn inside NFSA, because you and I both know that you can literally have a curriculum or a guide or trainings or whatever it is, and still not feel confident with just that. So it's also the level of support one-to-one in the group that you get from me. I'm very, very proud to say that NFSA is a program where quality and care is literally at the top of my priorities and will always be at the top in NFSA. I honestly feel totally confident saying that every student who has gone through NFSA would agree with that and would absolutely attest to the fact that the support and the quality of the support is unmatched. I don't say this to brag. I say it because it's so important and something that is a game changer for a lot of neurodivergent entrepreneurs who have maybe had coaching experiences that were very hands-off, or they've done kind of self-study courses, or you've just tried to overconsume, or even, I get a lot of feedback from people who have said, I've had coaches in the past who they just don't understand how the neurodivergent brain works. And, I'm very proud to say I am, obviously, I have that brain, but my experience with my wonderful students and clients over the years has allowed me to really, really know how our brains tend to work. And obviously every single person is different. But it is a game changer, because just shoving more information at you is not going to do anything. So the support really is unmatched. And I can say that there is nothing out there for neurodivergent online business owners at all that even comes close to the level of support that you get inside NFSA. So come join me. It is now evergreen as well, so you can join anytime. You don't have to wait for the next launch or anything like that. I'm literally there with you also, in the support kind of side of things. We have our weekly calls. We have 2 weekly feedback days a week, where we work together, and I will give you feedback on what you're working on. I'll prompt you to go and work on X, Y, and Z. And, it's all very much, we do it together. I don't just, send you away and hope for the best. So if that's something that you want to explore, I will leave the link in the show notes, or you can just head straight to the page, which is www.neuropreneurrising.com/NFSA. Didn't mess it up. Yeah. Where you can see the full details, and also you can book a call if you just want to jump on a call to meet me. We'll have a chat, see if it's a fit. Or if calls aren't your thing, you can literally just reach out to me on Instagram at Polly Pollock Official, and we can just have a chat. I can answer your questions and we can get to know each other. All right, I will see you next week.